Make your microphone green. I'd like to call to order the regularly scheduled December 16th Board of Public Works meeting. Start with the invocation. Lord, thank you for all our blessings. We come together today to do your work with your help and guidance. In doing this, look over our thoughts so that they may be reasonable, logical, and beneficial to the organization. Watch over our good people, keeping us safe from outside and internal dangers. We thank you for your continued help while allowing us to do your work. In your name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, looks like starting off, we need a motion to approve the consent agenda for November.
So moved.
And I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Any comments from the audience? Didn't see anybody signed up, but speak now or wherever else. And starting with Darren's general manager report, please.
Well, here we go. I will tell you that I will say this in public. I wrote this before I saw the city's agenda that came out. This was done on Friday. The agenda didn't see that. That didn't come out till 6:30 that night. But here we go. I believe it's important and quality information. What is a BPW, a Board of Public Works? So there are several governance types that provide utilities to municipal communities in America. In 1903, the Hannibal leaders and citizens created the Hannibal Board of Public Works, the HBPW. The HBPW is governed by a board that is made of 4 members. The mayor votes as a 5th member if there are any split votes. They're appointed by the city manager and approved by the mayor and city council. Citizens have the ability to take their concerns to the HBPW board members, and if not satisfied, they can go to the mayor and city council. A municipal utility board provides value to a community by ensuring local control over essential services. The Board of Public Works provides electric, water, and wastewater services in a safe, reliable manner that is as reasonably priced as possible while meeting all federal and state regulations. And yes, please note that these regulations are becoming stricter and more onerous as time progresses. The HBPW allows for decisions to be made based on community needs and desires. This governance form leads to more affordable rates, reliable services, and a stronger local economy by keeping utility dollars within the community. Not only does the HBPW pay a 5.5% franchise fee to the city, we also provide all utilities to the city for free. This coming month, if you look on page 10, we paid about $154,000 for the franchise fee and provided approximately $28,000 worth of utilities. The HBPW prioritizes citizen interests over profit motives, typical of a private utility. Now, some of the things that we bring: local accountability. Residents can directly influence utility decisions through appointed board members, ensuring responsiveness to local concerns. Community focus. Margins generated by the utilities stay within the community, contributing to local projects and economic development. Competitive costs. HBW offers lower rates than for-profit utilities while meeting its obligations supporting the community. We also have very competitive rates for those around us that are cooperatives. Please note that when you compare ourselves to cooperatives do not have a franchise fee that they pay to anybody. There's a very significant difference, so that's our reliable services. Local ownership can lead to faster response times to outages and maintenance issues due to a strong presence in the community. The HBPW has made intentional strides to improve the reliability of all our services. Our electric responsiveness to outages exceeds national averages, and we seek to reduce the number of outages with aggressive maintenance and system improvements. We have improved sewer outages and blockages with aggressive maintenance, cleaning, inspecting, and repairing before there is a break. And our water services are being managed to reduce leaks and breaks to deliver exceptional quality Mississippi River water. And that's not an easy thing to do. Sustainability initiatives, municipal utilities can prioritize environmentally friendly practices aligned with community values. We are working on a 2 megawatt and a 5 megawatt solar project. We have expertise required. Our board members, that's you, are educated to be able to understand utility operations and regulations to make informed decisions. That's a lot of weight that's put on you. And we appreciate your efforts to be educated and to make those good decisions. Transparency and communication, maintaining open and transparent communications with the public regarding utility plans and decisions is crucial. The HBPW has open meetings and videos of these meetings. The public is invited to attend, and the videos are made available to the public through our website. HBPW has been made strides to increase the demand for communications in multiple venues to meet the demands of the community. Financial stability, proper management of finances is necessary to ensure the long-term sustainability of the utility. The HBPW has worked to have an adequate reserve fund. The reserve funds are needed to meet the borrowing institution's requirements when borrowing is needed. Reserve funds are needed to meet emergency needs, utility interruptions, or financial struggles. We have used them for all of those purposes. The reserve funds helps provide funding for the capital improvements that bolster reliability and manage operations and maintenance costs. The proper funding and use of the reserve fund protects the reliability and efficiency of the BPW. The 5-year capital plan being presented today is a key plan to maintaining the excellent service the HBPW strives to provide the Hannibal community every single day. So Paul will be kind of sharing that with us. It is just, we're not asking you to accept it or anything to that effect, but it is simply a preliminary look. But we believe that planning is essential. We've taken several things and moved them out, recognizing that we're in a dire straits right now. We're watching those funds very carefully. We also recognize that there's a trade-off. There used to be an old commercial that says, pay me now or pay me later. And that's what happens with utilities. Sometimes when they're underground, not seen, we assume they're just fine. But each time, every year, every day, there's a life expectancy taken from them. And we have to renew, we have to replace, we have to improve so we can maintain and keep the reliability going, especially, again, with those essential things that we have. For some reason, electricity and water and sewer services are pretty important to the health of the community. And that's all I've got. Any questions?
Nope. Any questions? Nope.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And moving right along to Matt Winslow.
Good afternoon. If you look under the electrical system report, a number of outages decreased drastically from 28 during the month of October to only 5 during the month of November. Our overall reliability rate stayed the same at 99.993, but we did reduce our normal number of outage minutes from 1,151 to only 199. Continuing, you can see the causes, trees and squirrels. So we're continuing to work on getting those squirrel guards installed and trimming what we can within the right of way. I know there was several outage events that occurred this weekend that were trees. I think the majority of those were stuff that fell through the right of way and into our lines or to surfaces, not necessarily stuff we have the ability to trim. So we're continuing to work what we can to improve that overall reliability. If you look at the water treatment plant report graphs on the second page of my report, we're trending right along with what we had historically for the month of November, just a little bit lower than previous year than the previous year. Some items of note at the water plant, we did replace a raw water pump. That was something that has been on order for quite a while. It finally showed up and we got that installed. And then we did complete media exchange on GAC vessels 1 and 2, and that occurred on the 4th and 5th of November. Water distribution side, the number of leaks, similar to the electric system, the number of leaks were down this month. We only had 2. So they focused on, going out into the system, identifying area valves that we have issues with, valves that we need to get on a replacement schedule, and exercising the valves so that their operating condition is known, so that when somebody was called out in the middle of the night, they know where they can go and actually operate a valve that is going to do its intended purpose. Wastewater treatment plant, we were a little bit higher on our flows in November than we were in even November of last year, and about 16 million gallons more than we were in October, and that's attributed to a rain event. You can see how just one single rain event increases our max day and also our average day for the months. We continue to do testing at the wastewater plant. As Darren mentioned in his report, regulations aren't getting any less stringent. There's upcoming regulations that will go into effect in 2030 related to phosphorus. And so now we're continuing to sample. This past month, we actually did some sampling while General Mills was shut down for the Thanksgiving holiday to see the impact that they have on our treatment process. And then we continue to perform industry cross checks as it relates to our pre-treatment program, making sure that those companies are meeting the limits that we have imposed upon them, so that we can meet our limits prior to discharging to the Mississippi River. On the collection system, we did have a sewer that collapsed, and I know it's hard to see in the picture, but it's a cellular core pipe similar to a corrugated cardboard. So you have the inner lining, the outer lining, and diamonds back and forth that provide the structural strength. What they saw here when they dug this up was that it split down the length of the pipe. And so we've got this in one area of town, and so we're going to continue to monitor it. We don't know what caused it to fail here. We had replaced up the pipe, I think about 20 or 40 feet here a few years ago. And so we're going to continue to monitor that and make sure that we don't have no further issues with that. Technology-wise, we're continuing to make improvements. With technology, it's ever changing, and so stuff goes out of compliance, without being able to be updated quicker than the predecessor did. So you'll see we have some items that we have to ask you to surplus as we go through and update those update our technology to newer items and dispose of the older items. And that's all I've got, unless you all have any questions.
Are they
Go ahead.
are they still collecting data on COVID from the treatment plant?
I haven't seen any numbers recently. I'll have to ask and get back to you.
Okay.
I know earlier this year we were, because it actually made headlines of some news agencies when it kind of bumped back up. So I'll double check and get back to you on that.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Any other questions about Matt's operations report? If not, you can just stay up there for projects. Please.
First project you'll see here in the report is the gravity filter media replacement at the water treatment plant. That's the replacement of the under drains and the media in the 4 gravity filters that we have prior to going into the GAC. We're finishing up filter number 4 right now. We've got a final inspection scheduled for Friday of this week. So all in all, that project went rather well, and look forward to seeing the data that came out of hopefully some improved performance with that filter media exchange. Item number 2 is the water loss. It's something we're continuing to work towards decreasing. We've installed some vaults at some key areas in town, and we're just waiting on the monitoring equipment to arrive so we can put that in, have real-time monitoring, make sure that we got good flow data in our system and can further track down where loss may be occurring. One thing that did happen during the month was we were able to install a flow meter leaving the clear well at the water plant. Prior to that, there was 3 individual meters. We had the high pressure side of things, and then we had 2 meters that fed the low pressure side. And with Gordon Eden's clamp-on meters, we were not getting consistent data between the clamp-on meters and the meters that were installed in the 2 different pressure zones. And so with this clear well flow meter, we're able to get a totalized flow leaving the clear well and goes to those 3 meters. And so we're pretty confident that what we have leaving is good, accurate information now, and it allows us to build upon it and look for these areas where water loss may be occurring. So, continuing to work through some sewer projects and hopefully hit next summer's construction season. On the stormwater side of things, North Street, continuing construction on phase 1. They're past, they're west past Main Street, working on closing off the old storm sewer that turned and went under the structures there. And then they're also going to be constructing the poured in place box structure where it'll actually turn and go up through the bridge approach park up toward the old bridge approach. So continuing to work on that. They have ran into a few issues with equipment. They've rented a breaker to break the rock, and that for some reason or not, they've went through 3 different machines and 3 different breakers and couldn't get it to work correctly. But I think they've got that worked out and have been breaking rock. According to the contractor, it's pretty hard rock to break, and so it is requiring a little bit more time than they anticipated. But they are making good progress. They're having to break out about a foot of rock right now. So, and then the same contractor has phase 2, which continues northwest along Mark Twain Avenue, and they'll begin that once they finish phase 1. So, and then phase 3, we're waiting on the design from the engineer on that for review. Their schedule is to have us that design by the end of the year and a completed design available in February. We'll talk about Bear Creek spillway improvements here in a little bit. Indian Mound substation replacement. If you can see it, they're east of Lowe's down through that easement there. We have a dirt work contractor in there. They've done majority of the dirt work. They're installing some of the underground infrastructure such as stormwater piping and such, and so making progress on that. Our transformer is sitting on a lot down in St. Louis. It's got power, and we've got people checking it periodically to make sure that the nitrogen blanket is sufficient on it. And then once the concrete is poured and cured here, they'll load it on a truck and bring it up here. So that's all I've got as far as project reports, unless you all have any questions.
So they're finding that bedrock underneath the street?
Yeah, that is correct.
Okay.
About a foot of it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So there was an allowance for rock in the original bid contract, and so it's being accounted for at this time.
Great. All right. Any questions of Matt? If not, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And next up, Paul.
All right. Well, good afternoon. Merry Christmas.
Same to you.
Thank you. All right, financials for November. Total cash utility-wide did decrease by $861,000 from the previous month, and we're looking at about $2 million less than a year ago. As you know, the continual decrease is due to the higher capacity charges that we're paying in the fall, and then obviously the lower revenues that we see in the shoulder months, that being October and November especially. We did also pay a very large invoice in our sewer fund, and you'll see a corresponding offset with an increase in fixed assets. As we build that asset, we have an increase in construction in progress, offset by that decrease in cash when we pay those invoices. So utility-wide, total assets are down just slightly from last month and are about 1.8% less than a year ago. Looking at the income statement for November, utility-wide, we did have another net loss for the month. The electric fund specifically saw a net loss that was less than budgeted. The net loss was about $404,000. Revenues did come in close to budget, and purchase power and operating expenses were both lower than budget. A big reason for the lower operating expenses was that we did receive reimbursement for our mutual aid efforts when we sent crews for the hurricanes. And so we did recognize those funds. I did want to point out that I am again presenting the budget to actual reports with an updated budget reflecting the 9% rate increase, and then also including the original budget that was approved, including the 15.8% rate increase for comparison. In the water fund, we did have another carbon changeout expense in November. That's $107,000 every time we do that. And so despite that, though, operating expenses were only 5% more than budget. And so net income did come in behind budget by about $29,000. And then the sewer fund had revenues greater than budget and operating expenses less than budget. And so that resulted in a positive month for that fund. Looking back a year ago, the electric fund did perform better this year. Revenues were up by about $181,000, and that was despite kilowatt hour sales hitting an all-time low for us since we started tracking that data in 2013. We recognized about $14.8 million of kilowatt hours sold. That's about 5.3% less than last year and about 7.8% less than the 5-year average. Obviously, November is a shoulder month, like I mentioned, but definitely a concern that we had that much of a decline. The previous low was actually right at 15 million kilowatt hours, and that was set in May of 2020, which was obviously due to the lockdown from the pandemic. Drilling down a little bit more specific, our top 10 customers, which are all industrial customers, did use 24% less than the previous month. That equates to about 1.9 million kilowatt hours. So we've been seeing that downward trend the last few years, and this kind of solidifies it even more. Obviously, if you think back to November, it was very mild. Did have a few cold days, but weather-wise, it was very mild, but still something to note, especially as we go into our budget season. Looking back a year ago, the water fund did do better last year. It did not have a carbon changeout expense last year, and so it was able to perform better. And then the sewer fund did slightly better this year due to those higher revenues that I mentioned. Year to date, we are now 5 months into fiscal year 25, almost halfway. When we look at the budget reflecting a 9% rate increase and capacity that's been amortized over the full 12 months of the fiscal year, the electric fund's net loss is about $38,000 more than that budget. We do have operating expenses that are $41,000 less than budget, and purchase power that is less than budget as well. However, it is again revenues that are lagging behind to the tune of about $162,000. The water fund is significantly behind budget, and that is due to operating expenses. So far this fiscal year, we've actually recognized 3 carbon changeouts, and so that is definitely driving the overage in that fund. The sewer fund is about $53,000 behind budget. We've had continued issues with the compressors. Like we mentioned a few months ago, we have ordered new compressors, and those are set to arrive in early 2025, I think sometime in March or April. And so hopefully we'll solve those issues there that are causing some of our higher costs at the wastewater plant. Looking back a year ago to the same time period, utility-wide, our net loss is about $138,000 less than it was last year. Operating revenues are about 5.7% more. Net purchase power is 6.5% more due to the capacity, and then operating expenses are 4% more utility-wide. Other information that I wanted to give, we've got our check register, our credit card statement, all of our purchases in November, as well as our cash reserves and where those stand right now, and then our current investment listing. Something you'll notice with our investments is a lot of red. That is because we have not reinvested several of the last maturities that we've had due to the decreases that we've been seeing in cash. And so we've been letting those mature and then transferring them over to our operating account. On page 25 on our dashboard, about halfway down, you'll see our debt service coverage ratio and where that currently stands. We did have decreases in all three funds, and electric is currently at negative 2.5, water is at 1.55, and sewer is at 4.02. And then a couple other items I wanted to update you on. Our financial statement audit with Williams Keepers. I just received the final report just a couple hours ago. So that's all been finalized for the Board of Public Works, and then the auditors will be here, or not here, but in Hannibal tomorrow to present the City of Hannibal audit to the council. And so hopefully we'll be able to close the book officially on fiscal year 2024 after tomorrow night. But we will get that audit sent out to you all in its finalized form. There were only 3 changes from what was presented to you last month in draft form, and those were to add whether or not we complied with each of the bond covenants in each fund. And so obviously there are 2 statements saying that we did comply in water and sewer, and then in the electric fund it says that we did not comply with that covenant at June 30, 2024. And then we did list a bit of a plan to return to compliance, that we implemented a rate increase in fiscal year 2025. And then we mentioned that we will implement additional rate increases as needed in fiscal year 2025 to correct the deficiency. And so that's been buttoned up, and I will send that to you as well as the rest of our constituents. We did also receive a positive update on our IRS audit on our 2019 water bond, that the IRS agent is ready to close the book on that, and he recommends no change to the tax exempt status of those bonds, which is a positive thing. That's the best news we could have received. The only thing outstanding or waiting is for final approval from his manager before he can issue that official statement. So that's the latest on that. And then, to my knowledge, we don't have any official change yet on our S&P rating in our electric fund. We are still waiting on that. I guess she's not an auditor, but the S&P advisor has reached out with a couple follow-up questions, and so we've been giving her information. And I think that's been slowed a little bit by the holidays, so we'll definitely keep you updated when we do hear something on that front. I think that's it. Any questions on the financial report?
You had mentioned that you amortize the capacity numbers.
Yes, sir.
Why is everything else cash accounting in this average?
Yeah,
Am I hearing it wrong?
No. We do, we essentially do cash accounting on a monthly basis. We convert everything to accrual at year end. Mm-hmm. So, for example, MISO, our purchase power provider, they bill us 2 weeks in arrears. And so accrual accounting would have us record, based on the actual 30 days within that month. Well, because we don't receive those invoices until 2 weeks later, we're not able to record what actually happened in November until we actually have the invoice. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that very well, but so that's the reason why we just do essentially cash accounting when it comes to our purchase power. And then we do convert everything at year end for the audit because we've got the extra time there to go back and convert everything based on when that actual operating date was.
So that 2-week lag would really throw a month's service way off as far as what really happened.
It could, obviously with the capacity, that capacity charge will officially end November 30th, but we won't be billed for that last November 30 bill until I think it's December 17th or 18th this week actually. And so, cash accounting, we're recording that in December. Mm-hmm. But really it reflects November's usage or capacity charge. Yeah.
Makes sense. You also mentioned that you're relieved that we were able to stay tax exempt on the bonds for the water.
Yep.
Is that something that is looked at every year and has a possibility of not being tax exempt?
No, that is, from what I understand, that is the beautiful luck of the draw that so what's happening right now is that they have extra IRS agents that have been retained. And so one of the focuses within that is on tax exempt financing. And so there have been, I think they had 12 outstanding at the same time of municipals that have issued this tax exempt debt. And basically what they do is they audit it to make sure that you went through all the necessary steps that you were supposed to when you issued that debt, that the funds were spent the way they were supposed to. You had certain investment accounts and all that was done. Your T's were crossed, your I's were dotted, just to make sure that because tax exempt debt obviously has a lower interest rate. It has these advantages that regular debt doesn't have. And so they just want to make sure that everything was done properly.
Okay.
I believe it's also, they look at every on a 5-year, I think it's a 5-year length of that bond is kind of when it hits that those covenants are looked at. Our bond counsel also looks at it. IRS kind of has a flag that went, but I simply say they went back and the amount of information that they asked, Paul had to come up with every check that was written down to the, screws and bolts bought from True Value. I mean, it went to everything that was associated with that, and we were able to pull up all of that information. The granularity that they asked for was absolutely incredible, and we were able to provide it. And so for them to come back and say, hey, it's just, you're clean, is quite a feat for Paul, the amount of extra work that he went through to do that, and his staff, it was just phenomenal. So that I take my hat off to him, and he deserves a big gold star just for that. So he did a great job. And again, for that response from them was superb.
Good. One more, I don't know if you covered it or not, but electric fund operating expenses compared to budget was 28% lower. Or am I looking at that wrong?
Are you looking at month to date or year to date?
Operating expense of the month of November was $526,000 compared to the budget of $736,000.
Yes, I did mention it briefly. I'm trying to get the exact.
Was that the hurricane reimbursement?
Yep, there it is,
Oh,
526. So
okay.
yeah, we had all that hurricane mutual aid. When we got those invoices back, we were able to offset that
Gotcha,
labor
yeah.
expense.
Yeah, you said that, but
Yep.
didn't compute.
I have a question about I'm sorry,
Yeah,
Rena,
yeah.
about the water fund. Is the GAC change out, is that budgeted in, or did we not know, or?
That's I didn't mention that. So what is happening there, we budget, last year we tried to budget that based on the month that we thought it was going to hit. And so it didn't work. They sometimes billed us in the month that the change out occurred. Sometimes they billed us the following month. And so what we did is we took that change out expense and we just amortized it over the full 12 months. And then we just said that sometimes we're going to pay for it, sometimes we're going to not. It just depends on when they bill us for it. What's the reason that we've recognized 3 already this fiscal year, even though it's a quarterly change out, is because back in fiscal year 2022, they only billed us 3 times. They had a month where they didn't send us the bill or it got sent out way late. And so we only ended up recording 3 of those, and we have yet to catch that up. And so eventually we knew we were going to have to pay 5 change outs in a year. And so it's going to happen to be fiscal year 25 where we're likely going to pay 5
Okay,
this year.
thank you.
Any more questions of Paul? Okay. No more. Thank you very much.
All right, thank
Well
you.
And moving back to Matt on the unfinished business, please.
Thank you. You didn't say there was gonna be homework.
Not homework, it's good news.
Oh, good.
I couldn't get it in the board packet because I didn't get the information until late Friday.
Thank you.
So back in the early 60s, Bear Creek Dam was constructed by the Corps of Engineers. It was turned over to the city for maintenance and operation since that time. It's probably been 5 years ago now. MD&R came in and did an inspection. They found that the spillway, which isn't located at the dam, it's located on a property out off Highway HH, wasn't built to what the original plan was. And what they did at that time was they started off providing us a provisional permit for operation of the dam. If we held water above a certain elevation for more than 30 days, we were going to be required to make these improvements. And so operationally, we've been able to be under that 30-day window if or when that water ever got above that certain elevation. What we did was we took advantage of the ARPA, the grant opportunity. We went out and we were able to secure $500,000 for modification of that spillway so that we could get rid of the provisions from our operating permit. We hired Trek Design Group early this year. They went out, did survey work, found out that there was quite a bit of dirt that had to be moved, in excess of 60,000 cubic yards. We went out to bid in October. We opened bids November 18th, and we received 4 bids. You'll see there on the page 2 of the memo. Low bid was Talon Poe Dozing for just a shade under the $500,000. Well, we had already spent some money of the $500,000 grant allocation for engineering. At that point, we opened up dialogue with the MD&R to see if there was any other grant funding opportunities that were available to help cover that gap. And at the time, there was not. And so we put off having you all approve or reject the bids until today's meeting. Well, late Friday, I spoke with a gentleman that's in charge of the financial assistance center at MD&R, and he provided good news, and they had available funding to cover that gap in funding. And so what I'm asking of you all today is to approve the bid award to Talon Poe Dozing in the amount of $499,234.56. And then I'd also ask that you give Darren the approval to sign the necessary documentation to receive those additional funds when they have them ready and send them out to us later this week.
I'll make a motion to award the Bear Creek Dam Spillway Rehabilitation Project to the low bidder of Talon Poe Dozing LLC in the amount of $499,234.56.
In a second?
I'll second.
In favor?
Aye.
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 Okay.
Make a motion that we authorize General Manager Darren Gordon to sign the necessary documentation with Mo DNR, providing additional funding to wrap up this Bear Creek Dam Spillway Rehabilitation Project.
In a second on that one.
Yeah, I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Oh, hey, can Matt just stay up there and do his too? Do you care if we go in order? We don't have to go back and
It's up
forth.
to you.
Is that all right, Paul?
That's you.
I don't want to step on your toes.
Oh,
Is that
the lease
okay with you
agreement?
guys?
Sure.
All right, the lease agreement. We were approached several months ago after the Moslin radios were installed at the water treatment plant by Adams County 911. They were looking for a tower opportunity to provide them service on the western half of the bluff there along Illinois 57. They looked at the water plant, it just didn't meet their needs. They liked the location of the south side tank, and they reached out to us with a tentative agreement. We went back and forth and had something that's been reviewed by staff and by legal, and we believe it's a good document. And so what I'm asking of you all is if you all would approve entering this lease agreement with them, and then I will take it to council. If you all approve it, I'll take it to council for approval tomorrow night, as it does contain real estate, and so need their approval as well.
Yeah, we looked at it for a good couple months now, and I'm convinced that I didn't read every word, but we got to go with what our legal advisors say, so.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to move forward with the tower lease agreement.
And a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Second item I have right now is surplus item declaration. You'll see all the technology-related equipment. Most of it's out of date with no real value to it, and so we just need to get it declared surplus so that we can dispose of it according to our policies.
Get a motion to do that?
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
I'll
So,
second.
and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank you.
That's good, thank you.
This end of the table's feeling awful heavy down here today.
All right, well, nothing to approve on this one, but it is that time of year again where we start our budgeting process for fiscal year '26. Just a little timeline, so you have it. We try to get you the capital plan at this meeting so that we can approve it at our January meeting to give you that full 30 days to look it over. And then we will likely present our first run at our budget at our February meeting. We typically try to do a budget workshop then in March or possibly early April, and then ask you to approve the budget for fiscal year '26 at our April meeting, as that is required to be presented to the city by May 15th. So January 31st is the requirement for the 5-year capital plan, and then May 15th is the deadline on the operating budget. So what you've got in front of you there is our 5-year capital plan in draft form. Matt and Darren and I do sit down with all of the supervisors that are in charge of capital planning, and it's real easy to put all of these projects on there, but there is a significant amount of work to making a project come to fruition. And so it's definitely appreciated the effort that's put into to these capital projects, but definitely wanted to give you adequate time to review it. Feel free to reach out to me with any questions. I did mention that we do a operating budget workshop, but we could also consider a capital plan workshop as well if you wanted to, or we could do them. Well, no, we couldn't do them both at the same time, but we could consider that as well. But happy to field any questions that you have tonight if you do have any, but not asking you to approve anything at this point.
Anybody have questions of what they've seen for the draft so far? Don't think so. All right, we'll look at it
The
next
time
meeting.
frame sound okay to everyone? This is, as Paul expressed, I mean,
Yep.
Yeah.
like I said, we've taken it to the council as well. Afterwards, we get their approval on it. That's been what we've done.
The same schedule
So,
for
yeah,
quite a few years now.
yes.
Seems to work.
Okay,
All right.
Paul.
Thank you.
And Darren, you want to change the times or dates for the February?
Finally,
February
yes,
meeting?
just very quickly, we do have we have our board meetings on the third Monday of every month. If you look at January and February, those months, we have holidays on both of those. And what we've done in the past is we've simply moved it forward one day. We will hold our meeting at 4:00, then we can hustle over to the city council meeting at 7:00, and it seems to work just fine. So if that's all right with you as the board, we will make that change on the calendar and make sure that we hold those meetings at that time.
Yeah, that's what we've done in the past and seemed to work. I don't know,
Works great.
Tuesdays.
The third Tuesday of the month in January and February.
Say that again,
The
please.
third Tuesday of the month in January
Yes.
and February.
And I believe that's the 20th and the 17th.
21st.
And the 18th, yeah.
21st and 18th.
That sounds reasonable. And I think we can
Good with me.
schedule it in. Let's do it.
I know Erica will do a good job of informing the public.
Thank you.
Next, comments from the city attorney. Anything you got, Ian?
I have nothing unless you all have anything.
Anybody have anything else, general discussion wise? If not, I would like to solicit a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
And a second,
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
One of the things that I'm trying to do is to have fewer closed sessions. And so that's what, if we don't have it, a need for it, we're not gonna have it. So it's called transparency.
It's our Christmas present.